This video is brought to you by MagicJank.com, the spiciest cards for your sauciest decks. Buy and sell Magic the Gathering products and gear today on MagicJank.com. What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today I wanted to do kind of a recap, if you will. Now, I was on vacation last week, and so as a result, I missed the tail end of spoiler season. Now, I am planning on doing a series of set reviews, so I will give you my impressions on each individual card of the Brothers War, but I wanted to get one video together where I kind of give you my overall impressions of the set and see whether or not it is good or bad, because right now I'm hearing mixed reviews, and I find that really interesting because at the end of the day, I feel like this set is very interesting, and I think, maybe I hope, that it is going to shake things up in an interesting way. So let's dive into it, and I want to share my thoughts with you about the Brothers War. So, one of the things that I see quite a bit when it comes to the Brothers War as I'm looking through the cards is that there are a lot of generically good artifacts. Now, we have a couple examples here. Like, we have Surge Engine, we have Phyrexian Fleshgorger, both of which kind of serve different roles. They're both color locked, which is interesting. And, you know, a lot of examples are. Like, there, you know, we have Haywire Might as well. So just a couple of examples for you. These are all decently costed, efficient creatures that can accomplish a goal. Pretty straightforward. In the case of Haywire Might, it's removal that's attached to a creature. That's a 1-drop if you have green, and when it dies, you gain 2 life. So it's just decent. Like, in draft, it's kind of interesting because you don't need green necessarily in order to play it and get an okay body that you can do something with, maybe. But if you have green, it obviously becomes much better because it gives you the opportunity to destroy non-creature artifacts and non-creature enchantments, which is really cool. We have a lot of non-creature enchantments and artifacts running around right now, and this is a good answer to all of that at the uncommon rarity, which is great. In standard, I think this is going to be meaningful and very relevant. In the case of Phyrexian Fleshgorger, we have a big old beat stick that is going to be very difficult to deal with, and if you're in black, you get the flexibility of being able to drop it early, and in the case of Surge Engine, it is a cheap defender that is very well statted that also gets to buff up into an unblockable attacker if you've got a little blue mana lying around. So these are just 3 examples that I wanted to pull up to show that we have a lot of efficiently costed artifacts coming with Brothers War. The reason that I want to highlight that is because that is something we have been missing in Standard dramatically. Up until now, we've had cards like Patrick Automaton, which is fine. We have, you know, like Iron Apprentice is kind of what we got to go. If you're looking for big beat sticks with artifact, you need to go with like the, what is it, Thundersteel mech, the mech from Kamigawa. That's like a 7/7 trampler with like an equip cost of 2 or 3. Anyway, like you have these cards that frankly aren't very good. Walking Skyscraper is another good example. It's an 8/8 for a lot, like 8. What am I doing? I can just pull these up. So yeah, so we have Thundersteel Colossus. Oh, they're only cruise for 2. 7/7 trample for 7. Vehicle, great, does the thing. Walking Skyscraper is the other one. It's from Kamigawa. 8/8 for 8. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each modified creature you control. It has trample and it has hexproof as long as it's untapped. I actually run this in a couple of decks because it is it's a big beat stick that is great. What it does if you just need a gigantic body on board. And I have it because it's a big artifact specifically, because I've wasted cheat artifacts in, and this is the best we've got right now. To give you an idea, the reason I point these out, the reason I bring this up is right now in Standard, the artifacts are really, really bad. They just are. Like the moment Phyrexian Fleshgorger drops, I am swapping it in place of all my Walking Skyscrapers in every deck where that's a thing. All of them. Every janky deck that is currently cheating out a Walking Skyscraper is going to be cheating in Fleshgorgers or worse, because Brothers War has some gigantic monsters in it that are artifacts. That's the key. They're all artifacts. The reason I want to point that out, right now, in Standard, we have cards like Karn Living Legacy. Now, of course, I was going to bring this up, and yes, of course, maybe it's still medium. Now, my opinion of Karn actually increased dramatically. I thought this card was absolute trash, and I don't anymore. I think it's actually decent. Now, is it amazing? Maybe not, but I think it's decent, and I think it only becomes better. These Power Stones, being able to +1 to create a Power Stone is going to be relevant with all these big artifacts running around. That Power Stone mana is going to get used. It is. And I think as a result, Karn might become decent. But Karn's not the only one. There are plenty. Now, Karn is it just came out in Dominaria United. It's the most recent example. Of course, it's going to be top of mind. We have a couple other ones, though, that I think are going to be relevant, too. Don't forget, Kamigawa brought with it a ton of artifact synergies. I cannot tell you how many times I was reviewing Kamigawa cards and I found myself thinking or even saying out loud on my stream, twitch.tv/Hambox42. I cannot tell you how many times I found myself looking at these cards and thinking, man, if we get artifact support, this card is going to be great. If we get artifact support, this card is going to be great. Over and over and over and over again. Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh being a key example. First activated ability of an artifact activates each turn, costs 2 less to activate. Be careful with your mana rocks. But still, as a result, your artifact activated abilities become cheaper. +1, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, unless you discard an artifact card. That's just, it's kind of a mini thirst for knowledge on a +1 of a planeswalker. Great. -2, target artifact becomes an artifact creature. If it isn't a vehicle, it has base power and doubles 4/4. Great. Just simple, effective, does the thing, and then -6. You get an emblem with whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped. Draw a card. So, great stuff. And you're going to be tapping artifacts like crazy. I mean, that emblem right there, which is only 2 +1s away when you first drop it. Whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, draw a card. If you've got Power Stones lying around, that turns all of your Power Stones into tap, add 1 mana with limitations, and then draw a card. All of a sudden, that's big time. So this planeswalker went from being this unsupported thing that's kind of decent. I think we might actually see a situation where Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh becomes a relevant player in Standard because there are efficiently costed artifacts that are doing cool things and filling multiple roles in multiple decks. So I can absolutely see an artifact-themed mid-range deck leveraging Tezzeret. Now, on that same level, to that same end, I should say, we also have Disruption Protocol. As it just costs to cast a spell, tap an untapped artifact you control or pay 1. Counter target spell. If you have an untapped artifact lying around, this is counter spell. Like the card counter spell. That's pay 2, at instant speed, counter target spell. Boom. That's legal in Standard, and it's even a common. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of Disruption Protocol in the coming days in Standard. That said, now I'm talking about all these great artifacts and all these great payoffs. Now, a lot of them are blue, so I have a feeling it's not going to be... I don't think it's an accident. I think we are going to see whatever artifact deck bubbles up out of this. I have a feeling blue is going to be a very important part of it, because there's just blue artifact support. It's just a thing. So I think we're going to see that. And I'm okay with it, frankly. Is it going to be good enough to unseat the current meta where we have Grixis, Esper, Jund, mid-range value piles kind of taking over? To be honest, I don't think so. I have not seen a single card from Brothers War that surpasses Sheoldred in pure power level. There are a couple that are competing with it, to be fair. Like this is a terrible, just doing a search term on Scryfall for Gix. Here we go. Gix, Yawgmoth Braider. This guy is fantastic. This card is absolutely bonkers. And it fits in the same kind of deck that Sheoldred fits into. Like all of a sudden, all of a sudden Mono Black gets some extra tools. There are some other pieces of Brothers War that have potential to kind of be players in those existing decks. But to be honest, I suspect the mid-range value piles that we know and love, or know and are getting sick of, aren't going anywhere. In Standard anyway. I do believe that. But we have cool legends for Commander. We have, we have these artifacts that I'm telling you. I think we've got what it takes for some new stuff. Now that said, there are also pieces of removal and hosers that have been collecting dust as well. It's not just the artifact payoffs that I want to highlight. You may want to invest in, or at least when you're brewing decks immediately post Brothers War. It'll be very interesting to see how things shake out down the road. But in the immediate future after Brothers War drops, a lot of people are going to be experimenting with a lot of artifacts because that's the new hotness with Brothers War. Be ready for that. As a result, I would highly, 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 highly recommend you prioritize cards like Abrade in your decks because they allow you to hit artifacts. Also, cards like Destroy Evil. Right now, they are the bomb diggity shiz because they hit Sheoldred, they hit Titan of Industry, and they hit all those pesky enchantments that are lying around. Wedding Announcement, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, if your opponent's getting really saucy, Arcane Bombardment, Rabble Rousing, that kind of stuff. All of that gets blown up by Destroy Evil. However, Destroy Evil doesn't touch artifacts. So if your opponent gets a, I don't know, Portal to Phyrexia down, for example. Wow, there's a Portal to Phyrexia and a Phyrexian Portal. I had forgotten about Phyrexian Portal. Anyway, if they get a Portal to Phyrexia down, you're in a world of hurt unless you can blow that sucker up. A Braid gives you that. The other one, that is a card from Streets of New Capenna that sees no play whatsoever. And when I say no play, I mean no play whatsoever. Outside of maybe Commander, I imagine it's probably see some play in Commander. Anyway, is Structural Assault. I wanted to call this out because when I first saw it, I thought it was actually a pretty good sideboard card, but it didn't fit right now in sideboards for the current standard pre-Brothers War. This doesn't fit because artifacts are just nowhere to be found. None of the main decks are running a significant number of artifacts. So a spell that destroys all artifacts and then deals damage to those artifacts controllers, or to each creature rather. Sorry, it's a freaking board wipe. Yeah. Anyway, this thing's amazing. And Structural Assault actually rocks. It says destroy all artifacts on it for 5. It's a sweeper that specifically hits artifacts. I believe this card could be relevant in the future as a sideboard card. I'm thinking like 2 of in the sideboard if if I'm correct and an artifact deck bubbles up to the top and becomes at least a player. That said, if you want to farm the ladder shortly after Brothers War comes out, like maybe give people like a week to maybe get the cards, but people are going to be experimenting with artifacts. So have 1 or 2 of these in your decks and just see what happens, because I have a feeling there are going to be times when this pops really hard. In any event, I feel like that's kind of the story of Brothers War. When it comes down to it, as at least as it interacts with our current standard, I think these prototype creatures are great. I think the fact that they provide incredible flexibility is very meaningful. And we see a lot of really cool interactions and cool ways that they can be leveraged, whether you're blinking them, whether you're casting them specifically for their prototype cost, whether you're ramping up to the full value. I think a lot of them have really cool implications. I also think Unearth is very valuable. Being able to double dip on your creatures is awesome. Definitely take advantage of that. And at the end of the day, most of this set is artifacts, or at least most of the impactful cards, I believe, are in fact artifacts. So be ready for it. I think that's going to be the case. I think we finally got the artifact support that opens up a lot of previous cards. So even if you look at the Brothers War cards at face value and feel like it's okay, I guess, or it's meh, I'm not really super impressed, don't forget about these artifact payoffs that have been lurking in standard legality right now that haven't had support, because there's a possibility that they're going to finally get their chance to shine. And I'm excited about that. And I'm very much looking forward to testing some different lists and trying to make it pop. So Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh, you and me, buddy. Let's do this thing. In any event, thank you so much for checking out the video. It means the world. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. It actually helps the channel tremendously. And I put out videos all the time. I also stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/AMX42. I am just talking about Magic all the time because I absolutely love it. So look forward to chatting with you in future videos. And I'll catch you on the next one.